Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is training, and the title is Personalized Training Templates. So recently, through the gym, on our social media pages, we've offered a service around the concept of personalized training templates. And the idea of this is what I want to explain in this podcast. And then I can also pair this with anybody who is interested in the service. They can listen to the podcast to learn more about it and what the service is about, like the reason for it and how it helps. Now, if you are not partaking in the service, that's totally fine. And I still wanted to kind of give the benefits as to why creating a template is helpful for you to do. And we're actually going to go through how you can create one yourself. So we do have a service where you can pay us to do it for you. And then we also want to provide the content in which you can do it for yourself. So I do need to earn money to pay the bills and keep the gym going and the podcast going and do the things related to business aspects that allow this to be a possibility for me to earn a living doing what I do. And I'm blessed and grateful and I love what I do. But there is like the businessy aspect of making money. So offering a service like this, the intent is that by the person paying the gym or myself, it's helping me earn a living and keep the gym in business. But in return, the person is getting absolutely, my hope would be, is infinitely more. So as much as I would ever want to be successful business-wise, that's not the focus of this business. The true intent of why I created the gym and the true intent of why I created the podcast was to help other people and to help people become kind of the best versions of themselves. And I want them to live the healthiest and happiest life that they have available. So physical health, learning how to control my physical health, helped me then control my mental health, emotional health, relational health, and spiritual health. It helped me better control my life. And by understanding physical development, physical self, I was able to take control of my life and live the best life that I felt was available to me. And through the blessing of that journey, I couldn't help but not want to help other people do the same. And that's been the truest intent of the gym and of the podcast was there's not even a word to explain it really. Just the true happiness, contentment, the amazingness, the wonderfulness that I've been able to experience by learning how to control my physical health. And then that allowed me to better control my mental, emotional health and live the best of my life. I had a gift given to me by being able to do that. And I want to be able to pass that gift on to other people. So this podcast is about a service, but it's not about money. It's about how to keep the gym in business, keep the podcast in business, and be able to give the gift that I was given to other people. So that's been the intent. And to prove it, I want to, in this podcast, tell you how you can make your own templates. So we're not presenting an option and then hiding on how we do it. I want to tell you exactly how we do it. And if you have the time, the desire, and the knowledge to do it yourself, great, go do it. Have fun, live a healthy, happy life, get the benefit. If you don't have the time or you need help or you need guidance in doing it, that's what the service is. So we want to offer the service, but in no way do we want you to be dependent upon the service. Cool. So the origin of the need, or where kind of the idea of personalized templates started, is I've been fortunate in my career as a personal trainer. I've been personal training now for 17 years. And half of my clients are personal trainers. So half the people I do online work with and train in person are personal trainers. And they're CrossFit coaches, actual like independent personal trainers, strength coaches, variety of personal training and coaching aspects. Then in the other half, there's a lot of physical therapists, chiropractors, and even just like, this sounds jokey, but this means something to me, is even a dad or two who helps coach a youth team. And the reason why these things are important to me is because for each individual that I help, they can help dozens and hundreds more. So by investing as much as I possibly can and investing the best of myself into my clients, I'm able to have that knowledge and information reach more and more people due to the type of clientele that I have. So I'm blessed, grateful, and thankful that personal trainers trusted me to help them on their journeys and their careers. And I'm also blessed, grateful, and thankful for the other people who get involved and let me help them in their career as well, because it allows the information that I've been gifted in my life that helped me improve my life, be able to pass that on to other people and more people. So since half of my clientele are personal trainers, there's there are different personality types when it comes to personal training. There's the science of things, there's the creativity of things, and some people do better with being told exactly what to do. Some people do not. So I fall into the second category. So I do not like having pre-dictated plans that tell me exact same exercise to do every single day, every single workout, the exact same. So I have what I would call training ADD or ADHD, in that I like having freedom to learn, experiment, and manipulate the elements of workouts. So working out to me is my me time. It's my mental, emotional release. It's the thing I do that resets me, so I don't walk around punching everybody in the face. Okay, so I'm not like crying at home, curled up in a ball, and depressed from life. So training is what saves me mentally and emotionally and spiritually, relationally, everything. So for me, having the freedom within that allows me to get more or less from it each day. So if I'm stuck to a strict plan, but that day I don't feel like following the plan, I don't want to feel like a failure. I don't want to feel like a letdown. So if it doesn't match me, so if I'm supposed to go heavy that day, and my training wasn't, my nutrition wasn't right, my sleep wasn't right, I'm coming off of a big trip, I know that that's not necessarily the best day for me to go heavy. So I want to have the freedom to manipulate the day to what would be best suited for the conditions I'm in. And vice versa. If I have a light day planned, but I'm freaking feeling awesome, I want to go heavy, I want to do it. But I want to be able to create those changes, those manipulations, without losing true progress towards my goals. And too often I was seeing that happen with trainers and other people, just people in the gym. So is they would be doing things that seemed like fun, had a benefit or two, but it wasn't actually directly in line with where their path was. So it's like, yeah, that's cool, you're doing it, learning it, but that's not going to lead you where you really want to go. So what ended up happening with some of the freedom that some of the trainers wanted, and with some of the faulty experimentation, there became this desire, this need, this benefit to creating a template that allowed the freedom for the person to have their learning opportunities, but it gave them the correct parameters so they didn't get off track towards their ultimate goals. So, for example, some of the people I work with, we have one is a female trainer, and her goal is to be strong, but she also wants to be lean and fit. So she would kind of like to look like not a bodybuilder in the sense of like being huge muscles, but she wants to have lean, nicely shaped muscles. So maybe like there's so many classifications of aesthetics now. I'm trying to decide whether that's even important to specify which one. But she wants to have nice, lean muscles. But she also wants to be super strong. And sometimes people can be strong, but they can be kind of fat and out of shape. Sometimes people can be super ripped and lean, but they're not very strong. So she would like to do both. She wants to be strong, but she also wants to have tons of muscles and have like good muscular detail. So she could step, like on one weekend, she could do a powerlifting meet, and the very next weekend, she can do an aesthetic competition. That's her goal. That's what she said her goal was. Is I would love for people to think I do both. So now she doesn't like crazy hardcore dieting. She's had a history of eating disorders. So we are not going to probably do a figure or an aesthetic show anytime soon until she would feel like the dietary restrictions needed wouldn't trigger any of the past events. So we're in the process of learning that. We're in the process of working through the mental aspect of that. And by allowing her to focus on strength, on what her body can do, that allowed to take some of the focus away on what her body looked like. So this has been a kind of a growing, molding process for us. So she's a female trainer, goal of strength and leanness. Now, for example, in her bench press, So for strength, she competes in powerlifting. So you have a 1 rep max on squat. We got to pay attention to a 1 rep max on bench press and a 1 rep max on deadlift. So in regards to her bench press programming, there is very specific exercise selections that she should make, and there are very specific exercise selections she should not make. So for example, we don't do any underloading techniques. We don't do any kind of techniques that make her bench press feel harder at a lighter weight than what it should. Now, if you have a guy who can bench 500 pounds and he comes in and tries to bench 500 pounds every week, he's going to tear up his elbows, shoulders, wrists, everything. So sometimes there are needs for underloading techniques. Is if they can come in one week and we can set up an exercise selection to where, like, say 315 feels really hard. That gives them a chance to work on technique. They have to work on mental discipline of staying confident, positive, under control of their cues, under control of their aggression. The difficulty of their exercise is going to create physical damage, going to get them allowed to improve their physical development. However, with it being 315 instead of 500, they're going to have less wear and tear on the joints. So underloading techniques for very strong people, comparative to their body weight, are necessary. And it's not a direct comparison to body weight, but it is in relation to body weight. Whereas if somebody is, like, say, bench pressing around to their body weight or less, you don't want underloading techniques because the weight ends up being so light that it doesn't maximally stimulate physical development. So instead, we use overloading techniques that allow them to handle heavier weights than what they normally could without the adjustment to the exercise. So an example of this is reverse band bench pressing. That allows them to use heavier weights than they normally could. It allows them to maximally stimulate physical development and actually still maximally stimulate technique and mental development as well in strengths. But it ensures that they have all of the openness of using any overloading technique they want. And there, I could probably sit here and name like 50 of them. So there's an enormous amount of variety and openness within there. But we want to make sure that they always select overloading or normalized techniques, never underloading, because the underloading technique does not maximize their ultimate goals. So that's the idea of what the template is helpful for, is it tells you what category of exercises to avoid, what category of exercises to focus in on. So that way you still have freedom, but you don't lose track and actually not move towards your goals as maximally as possible. So for example, for each of their bench workouts, they're supposed to do 2 to 3 sets of like 0 to 10 seconds. Obviously you can't do a 0-second lift, so you'd say 1 to 10 seconds. So they would do 2 to 3 sets of 1 to 10 seconds of time under tension for maximum weight technique work. So that way it's like a single, double, or triple, and it's overloaded style. That is going to maximize every ounce of technique strength that they have and allow them to identify technique flaws, and then they can work on those and improve upon those. Then they're also going to follow up with 2 to 3 sets of work of 10 to 20 seconds of time under tension. What that does is that better relates more towards muscular damage, heavy-based muscular damage work, to allow them for the muscularity that they would like to develop over time. And it also helps with technique because it's still really freaking heavy. So that's the idea for their kind of template, is each bench workout, their bench press variation for the day should be an overloaded technique. They should have 2 to 3 working sets of 1 to 10 seconds of time under tension. And they should have 2 to 3 working sets of 10 to 20 seconds of time under tension. Now, there are some more variables there, but this is kind of good for a good basic understanding of what I'm talking about. So I'm not telling them exactly what exercise to do. I'm more so telling them what an exercise that they select should fit into. So the idea is to tell them what are the best exercise selection parameters for their needs, but then allow them to select the exercise within those parameters based on their equipment and their learning focal points at the moment, maybe like what they're trying to learn on. Maybe they've watched a new video on Instagram, watched a new video on YouTube, and they want to learn how to put those new exercises into their program. So the idea is to give them the program that they can put new stuff into, but allow them the openness to put new stuff into it. Okay, so for example, with conditioning work, so for that girl, she wants to stay super lean. So we have a lot of what we call muscle cardio, which is we want cardiovascular activity to help us burn body fat and burn up more calories. But we don't want to do boring, stupid treadmills because they're ineffective. So we do muscle cardio work, and that's podcast number 30. Okay, muscle cardio, how to lose fat without losing muscle. But in a sense, what you're really doing is you're using weight training where you're kind of creating a blend of, it's usually exercises, okay, weight resistance exercises in forms of circuits. And you're trying to find a balance between muscular burn and cardiovascular burn. So you're not failing just because you're out of breath, and you're not failing because you can't physically lift anymore. You try to fail because of both. So we provide the parameters for the muscle cardio that's correct for that person, the volume, the sets and reps, what their focal point of the exercises should be. So if they're kind of have poor posture, we're going to include more posture-based exercises into their muscle cardio rather than just general any exercise they want. So we're going to have specifics to their needs within that cardio circuit, okay, muscle cardio circuit. So we're going to provide correct parameters for their needs, but it allows them then within those parameters to have creativity, to come up with new ideas. Maybe if they have a new piece of equipment at their facility, or if they have a new client come in, they can try fun, new, weird things within the parameters specific for them. So not only do they learn in that moment of what fun new things can they fit into it, but they also don't fall off track and miss the ultimate goals that they have. So this is actually what I do for my online clients. So for my online clients, I get all their personal details, and then I create a template for them. Then what I do each month is I select the best exercises based on their current needs and situations that fit into their template. And then each week we do video reviews of their technique of certain lifts. And each week we discuss how their training and nutrition are going and make adjustments if needed. So that's kind of like online trainer clients that I work with, is I create the template, but then each month I fill out the template for them based on the best exercise selections on my knowledge, which after 17 years of training people and doing all the variety of people I've worked with, it is commonly a little bit better kind of knowledge than what they have to pull from. So I'm going to be able to make sure that we pick the exact best exercises. And often for my clients, I make shit up because there isn't an exercise that necessarily directly fits their needs that exist. So we put a specialty bar in some weird position. I create a video and we send it to them and we figure it out. So it's kind of like two brains are better than one. So we collectively work towards the best, the very, very, very best exercise selections. And then we do those video reviews and we do the discussions every week, the check-ins every week, and make any adjustments we need along the way. So that's what I do with my online clients. However, that does come at a higher degree of cost per month. So it's not a bajillion dollars. It's actually very reasonable. The reason why the interest for the service of the personalized training templates came up was it provides the benefit of a very specific to your individual needs template. But it comes at a lower cost because it doesn't have the weekly video reviews. It doesn't have the weekly feedback. So I send the template. I help you with a first month example of exercise selections, and then the person kind of takes it and they run from there. So they can email questions here and there, but it's basically self-guided. And that has been shown to work for years. So I have clients that I've used the exact same template for over 2 years. And now their specific exercise focuses have changed as their strength-related weaknesses and issues have changed. But the template itself is still the best for their individual needs and goals. So if somebody says, I want to be strong and lean, that's a lifetime kind of goal. You always want to be stronger and you always want to be leaner. So I've had clients where they've used the same template for 2 years or more. So the idea of this service is you would contact us, we'd get all your information, we'd create the best template for your training, send it to you, and then you would take that and run with it for years. So that's going to be a pretty awesome service, and we've already had people take us up on it. And I have already typed out a lot of explanations and emails that prompted me to make this podcast now, so I don't have to make up those emails again. So it was a lot of writing. So I'm trying to be lazy and kind of like sending the podcast now instead of all that writing. So thankful to those. Thank you to those who have already signed up for this service. So I truly appreciate it, and I'm excited to see how well it helps you. Now, if you'd like the service, you can email us at brutalirongym@gmail.com. Now, if you don't want the service, or if you want to do it yourself, okay, that's absolutely what I want to include in this podcast, because I don't want everything to be about money. So money is important. Money is helpful. It pays the bills. It lets me live a nice, happy life. Lets us have this gym that helps the hundreds of members we have. And it helps me have this podcast, which helps we're at 40-some thousand downloads. So money is helpful because it allows you to reach more people and help more people. But I don't want money to be the focus. So how can you create your own template? Every single workout should include 4 components. The first component is going to be movement preparation and warm-up. So what this means is you're getting your body ready for the workout to make sure you can move well without joint annoyances or pains, and make sure you have kind of the best body condition to go into your workout, meaning you have good production of adrenaline, good production of endorphins. Adrenaline is your aggression, endorphins is your natural painkillers. You already have good focus. A good proper movement prep and warm-up kind of helps you focus on individual weaknesses. So that way over time you can fix small issues that are maybe holding you back from being your best. So that should be the first element, is a movement prep and warm-up. Then you have a strength focus. Then you'll have muscle manipulation, which can be the focus of muscle damage for growth to get bigger muscles. It can be the focus of muscle damage for leanness, okay, to actually help you lose fat, or it can be muscle focus for endurance. So the muscle manipulation, the reason why we use that term, it's kind of a weird term, but it makes sure that it's inclusive of all goals. So if I just say, you should do movement prep and warm up, then strength focus, then bodybuilding work, people are going to say, well, I don't want bigger muscles. Okay, so we have to use a different word. So muscle manipulation means I'm manipulating the muscles in the direction that I want. I either want them to get bigger, I want them to show and be harder and leaner, or I want to have better endurance for my muscles. So that's what you would do at that point in the workout. Then to finish off the workout, you have a finishing movement. And this can be cardiovascular based towards leanness if you want, or it can be more muscle damage if you just want some muscularity. So if you already did your strength thing, you don't need to do more strength stuff at the end. But at the end, you would either pick kind of like more cardio based for fat loss activities, or you'd pick more muscle damage based activities for muscle growth and muscle shape. So that's the idea. Those are the 4 components that you would have in your workout. So the first component again was movement preparation and warm-up. Podcast 407, titled Importance and Benefits of Warm-Ups, tells you how to create the best warm-up for yourself. How to pick what's the right exercises, the right order, all that stuff. So if you want to create that part of your template, okay, what you should do for movement prep and warm-up, listen to podcast 407 and create your warm-up. That is the first thing that I would be doing, would be creating the movement prep and warm-up for that individual if they bought the service. So how you can do that is listen to podcast 407. Then we have our strength focus. Now this can change per workout. So if you do powerlifting, you might have, a squat day, bench day, deadlift day. If you do aesthetic-based training, you're still going to, on like chest development day, still have to work on getting your chest stronger. A stronger muscle can eventually lift heavier weights for more volume and get more muscular damage. So I can create a bigger chest as my chest gets stronger. So you might have a chest focused strength. Then maybe the next day you train back. You're going to have a back-focused strength exercise. Maybe that's barbell bent over rows. Maybe that's cable rows. But again, your back can get bigger if it gets stronger. So you have to have a strength focus even if you're a purely aesthetic-based athlete. Okay? You need to have that stuff in there. So podcast 346, titled Improving a 1-Rep Max, will tell you how to structure strength-based training. So even if you're an aesthetic athlete, you still need to do heavy lifting. And you'll listen in podcast 346, even though it's titled Improving a 1-Rep Max, you can use those same elements to improve like a 5 or a 6-rep max, which will be a safer option for aesthetic athletes. So that podcast will still tell you, even if you're an aesthetic athlete, how to create the parameters for your strength-based training. Now, if you're an endurance athlete, so maybe you do cycling, you do running, you do an endurance-based activity, but strength is still important. That's podcast 250, titled Combining Aerobic Endurance Training and Strength Training. So if you're an endurance athlete, how can you focus on strength training? How should you structure your strength training? That is in podcast number 250. Okay? So, after the movement prep and warm-up, listening to podcast 407 and creating the best one for you, you would then go into the strength focus. If you're a strength athlete or an aesthetic athlete, you would listen to podcast 346. If you're an endurance-based athlete, you would listen to podcast 250. Okay. Once you have those two created, you then move to your muscle manipulation category. And again, this can be muscle damage for the purpose of growth, muscle damage for the purpose of leanness, or damage for the purpose of improved muscular endurance. Now, if you're working on both strength and mass, you want to be strong and lean, okay? Strong and big muscles. You want to listen to podcast 391 titled Programming Structure Concepts for Both Strength and Mass. That'll tell you how to structure the mass portion, the muscle manipulation portion of your workout. If you want to do muscle damage for leanness, say fat loss effects, that's podcast 181, Using Muscular Damage for Fat Loss. Okay? You'd listen to that. And then again, if you're an endurance athlete, your information is included in podcast 250, combining aerobic endurance training and strength training. So now you have those elements done. You have movement prep and warm-up, which is podcast 407. You have strength focus, which for our strength and aesthetic athletes is podcast 346. For the endurance athletes is podcast 250. Then you have muscle manipulation. If you're working on strength and building muscle, that's podcast 391. If you're working on strength and getting leaner, that's podcast 181. If you're working on strength and endurance, that's going to be podcast 250. Okay. Now the finishing movement we have. If your goal is to do cardio with the purpose of being as lean as you can be, that's podcast number 30 titled Muscle Cardio, How to Lose Fat Without Losing Muscle. Then, if your goal is, I want to be lean, but I want to have a lot of muscle, I still want to be kind of bodybuilding type effects, bodybuilding type goal, then you're still going to use muscle cardio. So you're still going to use podcast number 30, but you're going to apply different time under tension ranges. So instead of doing endurance-based time under tension ranges, you're going to do muscle damage-based time under tension ranges. And to learn about that is podcast 214, titled Understanding Rep Ranges and Expected Results. So that's how you would create your template. So let's say just a strength athlete who wants to also have big muscles. It's podcast 407, then podcast 346, then podcast 391, then podcast 30, and podcast 214. So yes, that might seem like a lot, but that might be 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours of your entire life. But then you have a template that you can use for the next freaking years of your life. So all you have to do is invest 3 hours and you can have a template you can follow for the next 3 years. So you can do this. Now, do people have 3 hours to spend the time doing this? Are they going to fully understand every nuance after listening to the podcast once? No. That's why we offer the service. To save you the time and to give you maybe a little bit extra crisper knowledge towards the process of the template creation. But whether you buy the service or not doesn't limit whether you can get the benefit. The benefit is there for you to have. You just have to listen to the podcasts that are related and take some time to put it all together. Okay? So, those are the elements for every workout. That's what every workout should have, is a movement prep and warm-up, some kind of strength focus, some type of muscle manipulation focus, and some type of finishing movement. So we're offering the service, like we said, for those that want the precision of our knowledge and to save the time on themselves to doing it. But we don't want, whether you can afford the service or not, to hold you back from getting the benefit. So you can create your own template if you have the time and desire to do so and still get all the benefits of a good, solid template. Cool. So, hopefully this gave you the information you need that if you're wanting to do this, if the sounds of why a template might be helpful sound interesting to you, listen to those podcasts and create your own template. Or reach out to us and we'll do it for you. Okay? So the goal again of the podcast and of our gym itself is to help people become their best selves. We want you to live the healthiest and happiest life you have available to you. And we're hoping that the services that we offer will help towards those goals, but at the same time is the information we offer can help you towards those goals regardless of whether you get the services or not. Cool. So thank you for listening to this, and I hope that if you feel like a template is something that speaks to you and would be helpful to you, then hopefully you can take this information, create your own, or you can reach out to us and we'll create it for you. But that way you'll have what you need to live your healthiest and happiest life. Cool. Okay, if you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email, brutaliron@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.